Hey everyone, John Lorden here. Welcome to the first episode of JohnnyVlogs we've had in a few weeks. Of course, last week was a holiday. Hope you are all doing well. On today's episode, we have a special guest with us. Danelle Hallan is here. Basically, we both worked on the Noah Davis case kind of in silos. We really kept our work separated, and this is an episode where we're going to share our insights with each other and see if we can come to some new or different conclusions about all of this. Because we did miss JohnnyVlogs last week, we have a lot of patrons to thank. We're not going to skip out on any of them. Let's get into the list right now. Now pledged, Gina Valera, Cynthia Schaefer, Mike Beats, Lynn Downing, Lindsay Bruce, P.L. Wright, Katie Cadena, Tony Basili, Christina Krepek, Jen A. Palooza, cool name, Jen, I like that. Amber Castellano, J.C. Butler, Sonia Barnett, Brandy Jackson, all of them brand new pledges. On top of that, Heather Relander and Selena Moffat increased their pledges significantly. I really appreciate that. Thank both of you ladies very much. And I also wanted to remind you, because we don't talk about it all the time, but thanks to you and your support of me, I'm able to support Destiny Rescue, which is an organization that combats child trafficking internationally. We donate to them on a monthly basis now, $25 a month, and that's because of you guys. And Destiny Rescue just sent me an email just a little while ago. They're very happy that they've hit a milestone already for this year. They have rescued over 250 children. So know that a portion of the proceeds that are coming into me automatically going right back to Destiny Rescue on top of all the other GoFundMes and things that we support on the channel here. I'm so flattered that you guys helped me do all that. Thank you so much. With all that being said, let's go ahead and bring our guest on the show. Everyone, here is Danelle Hallan. Hey, Danelle.
Hey, how are you doing, John?
Good. So nice to talk to you in person again. It's really interesting. We spent so much time at CrimeCon, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, her and Pal aren't there.
I know, it was sad. Pal won't stop talking about you still.
Well,
he's my biggest fan other than my daughter now.
Oh, it was really awesome. That was kind of a cool thing too, being able to say hi to Ray Lynn when we were out at lunch at one point. Very fun. There was an interesting start. Of course, we're here to talk about the Noah Davis case. Both of us kind of worked in silos. You took one perspective. I tried my best to take another perspective. I struggled with it. I've been honest about that through the whole process.
Yeah.
But before we actually met Josh, we had a conversation that was kind of ongoing at CrimeCon about tunnel vision. Mm-hmm. Do you want to share with the audience what we were talking about with that?
Yeah. So we were talking about how we personally approach cases and how you really have to see things from both sides. And you can't go into something and, look at one fact and say that is what it is. You've got to look at things, from a different perspective or, and unfortunately, a lot of the times when people look into cases like this, where there's already one big theory going on, they kind of create this tunnel vision and put blinders on, and they can't see other sides of it. And it could be something that's very easily explained. Like it could be a bit of information that you could say, oh, well, this right here looks like she was, walking down the stairs when really she might have been sliding on her butt if you looked a little bit closer. You know what I mean? It's just something that, it could easily be explained. And unfortunately, people will just see it for what they want to see it as instead of really checking what they're looking at.
Yeah, and I think it's a learned thing because I remember falling into that a lot when I first started doing this type of work. I'd be looking into a case and looking into one particular aspect, and there's just something about it that would either hook your imagination or just all of a sudden you feel like you've solved it. Like you put that is the puzzle piece, that is the corner of everything. And I really had to learn through doing this work and listening to input from other people about those facts that I was leaning so hard on, that you have to challenge those things. You do have to ask questions. It's one thing to find it and to say, I can support this with this information. It's another thing to, at that point, say, okay, now how can I test it by firing some other information against this or asking some different questions and seeing if it stands up? And that's a bit of a skill that I think it takes a lot of people some time to develop. So I think this case suffers from that quite a bit. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because there's a lot of tunnel vision going on with this case on both sides, I think.
Yes.
For me, it was interesting to see your video and to see you really nail the point about when he was released from prison.
Yes. Timeline. Whew.
Timeline.
It took a lot to put together and make sense because, again, there was a lot of input that muddied it and things being spread as fact, and there was speculation. And it's like you said, you get one thing wrong and you don't look at anything else to make it make sense. And you could be giving a whole other timeline that supports your theory when it's completely false. So that took a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough about this case because there's multiple timelines kind of representing both sides, but neither of them are very good just about being a factual timeline.
No.
Like, we know on July 24th he went to the prison. We know that on August 7th, Joshua was released. When it came to known facts, that was the hardest thing to try to drill down to. And I was working with the people that were representing a particular side and just constantly asking them kind of the same question over and over. But where is this belief structure coming from? Where is the verifiable fact?
Yeah.
And ultimately, what I heard a lot of was we've got this information from other interviews, which at that point has me wondering, well, are you, just picking whoever you want to believe at that point? You've got a couple people that you're talking to that you're rating higher than this other person for some reason.
Well, unfortunately, too, with this case, when it comes to the timeline, there was nothing known originally. That like no one knew when they last saw him, and it was about figuring things out. So, of course, when you look back to things that happened right around when Noah went missing, there's going to be a lot of different dates thrown out there and things thrown out there because they're just trying to get something out in hopes that someone latches on and remembers something. But obviously with time, when you learn things and look up phone records and pings and, messages, you get more solidified dates. And in this case, unfortunately, even some of those still didn't prove anything.
Right.
But, you can't go back and listen to a few interviews here and there, especially when someone's possibly working off memory or trying to figure out the timeline, and the interview you're taking these dates from, because, people, just try to figure it out. Things change as time goes on. So,
yeah. So, we get through your episode, which is pretty straightforward, kind of Danielle style episode on it. And we get to my episodes where I'm thinking we're going to do some introspective interview of some type.
Yes.
And all of a sudden we get hit with a very strange situation in terms of how Joshua's actions are being perceived. And we have people that think he's obviously on some type of drug, illegal or not, or he's suffering from disorder and he's not on a drug that he should be on. The theories are all over the place.
They are.
And
they were, yeah.
Yeah. What was your take when you first saw it? What were you thinking?
Well, I had, already said something to you just as a suggestion in your interview, and you can take this out if you don't want to say it.
Yeah.
I realized when I was speaking to Josh about things, he has ADD or ADHD, and it is impossible to keep him on topic. Mm-hmm. And that's not saying anything mean towards him, but it's just I kept having to redirect, and his mind's constantly going down memory lane when it comes to these things. And so I was already expecting that in this interview. I was kind of taken back when I first started watching, and it was very distracting for me to watch. So I ended up kind of just having to listen. Yeah. Because, obviously he had very dramatic facial expressions and, again, staying on task. But I don't know. I honestly boiled it down to his ADD or ADHD and being nervous. I understand where people are coming from, but again, it's one of those situations where you kind of need to look at both sides. And it's different filming like with yourself, by yourself. And then it's a totally different story when you're filming to hopefully prove your innocence and your brother's disappearance, with somebody else that's going to be asking you difficult questions. Like it could be explained by a number of different things. And, it was odd, but I think it's unfortunate that people felt the need to kind of throw really harsh accusations. And claim them as fact, which is a lot of what I was seeing. It's one thing to ask and be curious, because that was really strange at first, but to kind of say a lot that was said on there was really disheartening to me.
Yeah.
But
and of course, at one point, I pulled him down. It only lasted for about 5 minutes, but I had learned that his 11-year-old daughter was defending him in the comments, and I pulled him down. I told him I was going to do that, and then he was the one that was adamant about no, put him back. Yeah. Let them do what they're supposed to do. Let's get this information out. And if nothing else, I appreciate that he took that stance, of course. But I was hoping to hit a goal of us exposing this to at least 100,000 people, and I think we did that. So. It was unfortunate that the attention got pulled by his actions or by how people were perceiving him, because I did find the information pretty compelling.
It was. The information in it was great. And I responded myself to a few comments, and I was like, if it's bothering you how he's acting, just set your phone or something away and just listen to what he has to say. Because if you listen to what he's saying, it explains so much. Yeah. And you'll understand, you'll see past, again, what you're looking at and hear the actual information. So
I did actually tell him, that we needed to stay on topic because we had so much to cover. I was trying to get it in 2 hours. We ran closer to 3. And I did ask him to not curse because I don't typically have that on my channel. And he nailed it. Not one slip. I didn't have to bleep anything. So in terms of me being worried that he wasn't comprehending what was going on or anything along those lines,
no,
I was not there. I just wasn't there. And quite honestly, we interfaced with the guy for like 5 minutes at CrimeCon. I mean, it really wasn't that much time at all. So, and I've seen it. I just did an interview this past week with a woman. She's a sister of a missing person. Mm-hmm. And when you talk to her on Skype, she's pretty comfortable. But when she knew the camera was, when it was being recorded, she tightened up and,
it is. You can't look at someone's reaction to that and assume you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. It's a tough aspect to this whole case. But I did find the information compelling. The 2 cell phone thing really kind of blew my mind.
I'm happy you touched on that, because in the midst of everything, I didn't get a chance to. I asked as many questions as I personally could, but I had no idea. And that was one thing that had really confused me, because a lot of this information coming from this one cell phone that we assumed was Josh's could possibly be another phone that Noah just took from the house and then left there. That could completely discredit a lot of reasons why people think he's guilty.
Yeah. And another thing that very quickly for me got shattered, I would just say, is the perspective that I was getting from the side that I was working with, that this guy is a master manipulator, ultra smooth, charming guy that can, basically control people, make them do whatever he wants. You watch that series of interviews, and I don't know about you, but I am not feeling like that at all. I feel like this is a guy that is more in a response mode than a manipulating, kind of forward-thinking, drilled down. I mean, he knew about that interview for a week before. Yeah. Didn't ask me for any questions. People were warning me that he was going to use this new tip information, that there was a new tip out there, that he was going to use that as some type of deflection mechanism for the interview. He never did.
Yeah, he never did.
Yeah, I was the one that had to bring it up, so it never got brought up outside of that. If anything, yeah, you could look at how he speaks and you could say, wow, this is a dude that tells long stories and kind of takes the long way to get down the road. But
I do the same thing, so it's relatable.
Yeah. People might accuse me of that also. I do have very long videos sometimes. So yeah, I came away with a lot of different understanding. It didn't go how I expected it to at all.
Oh yeah, I don't think it did either. I was kind of expecting very different just in general. I don't know. It's not going how I expected, especially with the interview.
Yeah. But I definitely commend that he was willing to do it. He stuck by his word. There was only one area we couldn't get into. because of legal reasons. But he went all the way as far as answering a very direct question of was he involved in it or not. So I really appreciate that. I think at this point, I wrote down kind of 3 points that I think anyone really interested in trying to understand this case further needs to lock in on and kind of zone in on. Yeah. Number one is Noah's last sighting. I still don't have a good idea of when that is. I know the stories I've heard.
No, but technically, no.
Right.
The last time he was seen, I think it was was it the 27th? At his uncle's house I'm pretty sure the last time people claimed to see him, but I know because I've seen them myself that he did talk to people and potentially meet people on the 28th. So these people obviously are not coming forward, and probably for reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is definitely a big part of the case here that we need better clarification on. And let me just put out there now, if anyone does want to come on, I have a couple of feelers out for further interviews on this, including Jason, the brother that is having some dispute with Josh. I haven't heard from him in a little bit, so I don't know if that's going to come through or not. But if there's anyone else that is related to this case that wants to share information with us, please feel free to reach out. You can email me at john@lordenarts.com. Point number 2, we need to conclusively determine if Josh had opportunity for direct involvement. I think we've kind of got that figured out, except for the fact that without knowing Noah's last sighting, we could push the whole timeline of something happening to him.
A day or two. I mean, we know for a fact that he stopped communicating. Well, who we assume is Noah stopped communicating on his Facebook on the 28th, very, very late.
Right.
Again, I was able to look at the messages, and from the way this person was speaking, I'm pretty certain it was Noah. But again, we can't prove that. But if, that's like he could have just left his phone. He could have freaked out and left.
Yeah.
Again, it's about looking at all sides, and
that's kind of why I'm leaving that door open. I don't think it's open very far, because you'd have to believe that this guy came out of jail, tracked down his brother, who had been in hiding for about a week at that point for some reason.
Exactly. I don't think that's very possible. Is it? Yes. Right. Definitely not so much.
Right. And without a vehicle, was able to harm him, get rid of him, drive his truck somewhere, get back home, call the police, all by 5:20.
Exactly. All within a couple of hours. I mean, I wasn't able to find out when he got out of jail. They didn't even have that on his documentation. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a couple of hours, but he got out, had no phone. He had no car. He didn't have his wallet, any of his money. He didn't have anything. And again, his uncle, I think, was the only other person that drove. I don't think anyone else in the family had a car or drove. So it would take a ton of really fast work in order for him to have found Noah and done something in that time frame. It's just not a large enough time frame, and it defies a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, and hearing from Josh, especially about how important the truck was for the family, getting his mother to medical appointments and stuff, the intent of Noah trying to sell that truck tells me he was in some type of really bad situation that either he didn't know how to deal with outside of doing some drastic measures, or that he was intending on leaving that whole life behind, because
it was an emergency.
Yeah.
Emergency. So
he's taken his mother's ride to the hospital away, on top of upsetting his brother in a pretty significant way. So it had to be something major. And then, of course, point 3, which we kind of touched on, confirming or refuting the 2 cell phone theory, which I don't think would be very hard. I'm pretty sure that the detective already has a clear understanding of it. Yeah. The actions that Joshua told us kind of made sense. And I saw some of the email chain between him and the detective when he found that phone.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah, and the detective certainly did not seem interested in that phone.
And because at that point is when I was trying to understand the possibility of 2 phones, I guess. And when I saw the detective kind of blow off that email, like, oh, I'm not worried. I'm like, well, then he knows another phone is involved. There's no other way, because that right there, as you said and I said before, that right there is a massive piece of evidence that a lot of people have been using against Josh.
Yeah.
And I feel like if anyone were concerned about that, if it was a possibility, the detective would have said something, or something would have come out of it at this point.
Right.
And that was 2016, I think, when he found it.
Yeah. The other aspects of this that are really, I think, hurting the possibility of Josh being involved is his continuing efforts to raise exposure to this case.
Yeah.
He didn't have to go on the Vanished podcast. He didn't have to go to CrimeCon. He didn't have to meet a bunch of other people wearing his brother's image on him, trying to introduce himself as the brother of a missing person. He didn't have to harass the sheriff's talk show, which I think some people would say, him and his mom got in the habit of harassing that show.
Yeah.
He's literally, even the group that is critical of him was him looking for people to help with this case.
Exactly.
And we know, especially you and I know from looking into cases of this nature, you get someone in a poor community that is involved in drugs, those cases completely disappear within a matter of a month or two from all media, from all thought, unless there is someone as a driving force that keeps bringing it back.
Exactly.
So if he was involved, he is doing absolutely the opposite that he should be.
Exactly. And I mean, there's, again, looking on the other side of things, there's obviously situations where someone involved in something purposely puts themselves in it.
Yeah.
But this is a whole different level. He's literally, if you look at his personal Facebook, the Where's Noah Davis Facebook, he has done nothing but search for his brother. Yeah. Every single second he has available. I mean, from day one, constant talking about his brother. I don't think there's probably more than just a few days at a time where he's dropped it. Mm-hmm. If you were involved in something, why would you put yourself out there like that? Like, why would you go on, your channel, for instance, and allow, you to ask all these questions? And you warned him. You were like, this is going to be interesting. I'm asking difficult questions.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to test the theory that I was hearing from his critics about their whole story is, well, we originally wanted to help him and we started helping him, but then we started asking tough questions and he stopped responding. So I really wanted to test that. Was there a line that I could find with him with those tough questions? And like I said, outside of the legal one, there was no line. He was willing to talk about any of those aspects. So I clearly did not have the same experience that they did in terms of him seeming to run from any particular topics. And I asked them for specific things to ask him. And
Wow.
Yeah, and I worked those into the questioning as well. And he had no exposure to those questions at all. He could have asked. I probably would have sent him some drafts on that, but he never asked. Yeah. It's pretty telling.
And I know as well, I spoke to him. I asked him tons of questions that I had about information he gave me, like documents and things and things I was having trouble understanding. And I bugged the crap out of this guy for a week and a half, I think. And there is not one single question that I asked him that he didn't immediately get me back an answer.
Yeah.
And some of them weren't the best. I was like, when did you get out of jail? I need to know. And he immediately gave it to me. He drove all the way to, I think it was Chattanooga, to, verify it, get another document to make sure I had what I needed. He didn't seem hesitant at all to ask any questions, even the hard ones.
Yeah. So a couple of things. First of all, I was pretty clear in my JohnnyVlogs before we got to the interviews that I was trying, that this was kind of a new method we were testing out. Honestly, I think it worked relatively well. I mean, we got unexpected results, but we raised exposure significantly. Thanks to you and your amazing audience, by the way. I really appreciate you taking the lead on that story because that's where most of the exposure obviously happened. And then people that were interested in diving deeper came over to my channel for the interview segments. So that I think worked really well. Unexpected turns, obviously, which is kind of normal, but these ones were some big.
It wasn't necessarily how I expected it to go. I feel like my problem personally, I've learned a lot from this. I mean, a ton, and more than just a collaboration. But I feel like my main problem with all of this is that I expected people to kind of understand better. You know what I'm saying? I expect everyone to have the same heart. And I think for me personally, it was really disappointing to feel like we kind of added to the madness in a sense. I feel like there was initial confusion because I posted my video and then people were wondering where your video was, and people weren't getting why I left out all the speculation in my video because you were touching on that. I feel like we maybe could have explained that better.
Yeah. I think the JohnnyVlogs could have come before everything and maybe been on your channel where we kind of just talked about the method. But it was weird because we were also trying to do this mentality of working in a silo, so we didn't want to cross-contaminate too much. But
I think in our minds it made great sense. I think we knew exactly what we were doing, but I feel like you're right. And there were unexpected turns. I thought my video did great. I barely had any negative reaction to it. People were really understanding what was going on and following. And then the interview came out, and I feel like a lot of people instantly made a different judgment. And I don't know. It was hard to understand why for me, but I feel like that was my biggest struggle. I think we worked well as a team personally, and I really enjoyed the way we set it up. I think it was very important to set it up that way as well, especially with this case. We could have explained it better, maybe, but I don't know. It was very interesting thing to cover.
Yeah, and I really wanted to respect trying to find the truth in it. That's really why we talked about the method and doing it that particular way. And I don't like to play a human lie detector. If I'm going to let anyone do that, I'll let the audience do it out at their end. If they want to imagine that they can do that and, leave comments about what they think and that kind of stuff, that's fine. They're the end viewer. I understand that. But for me to do it at this point and then to relay that filtered information out is bad. I don't believe in doing that. So I was really trying to honor trying to find the truth in the situation. That's why I practically had no edits outside of technical issues that I had with his interview. That's why I left all of the rambling in. I could have cut that thing down easily a half an hour.
Manipulated it to the way, you wanted people to see it or would rather them see it.
Right. But I didn't want to give the critics that opportunity either to say, oh, look, this is a totally edited piece and what's he saying in those segments in between. So I just really wanted to respect honesty and finding the truth in there. And I think because of that, because this is a tough case, the truth is not clear. And we're going to have people that kind of form two camps and go at it. And we kind of had that happen a little bit, which I respect good debate. I respect people making good points. Not everyone was doing that, which is unfortunate, but a lot of people were. So I think overall, what I learned from it is maybe to expect a little noise in something as divisive as this, to try to facilitate that a little better. Like maybe I should have put some tags at the end of my videos about, let's try to keep this on topic a little bit or something. I don't know. I'll need to think about better mechanisms for that.
There's only so much, though, that we can do when it came to the way people reacted to it. And the people who are going to say incredibly rude things, they're going to say it regardless.
Yeah.
But it was like I was trying to say the other day that hopefully, obviously, like you said, people are going to take sides. They're going to believe what they want to believe. It might be over something really small that makes no sense. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's up to them.
Right.
But, we did what we could. I don't know. You always hope everyone will take things the way you want them to be taken. And I don't know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I know. We're still learning from this, everyone, just in case you haven't picked up on that. There was a couple of good things, at least I'm hearing possibly good things that came out of this. First of all, several members from the critics side reached out to me, and they really said that they heard my request for them to move the conversation to WebSleuths.
Great. That's a great move. It really restricts some of the things that they are posting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it'll help them focus on the known facts and searching for more of those. It's not that you can't consider what other people are saying. It's that you have to take their comments and then find the information that backs them up. And I just wasn't finding that level. I was finding we've done these interviews and I can't tell you exactly who, and it would take you months to go and do it all yourself. Well, then what kind of internet investigator are you? Like, what is the point of you working on this if you're not sharing your information with others so that they can pick up your work and continue? This is a crowdsourcing mentality.
When the biggest thing that I guess that I've learned from my channel and this situation in particular is that people want to believe the craziest thing they hear, and there needs to be this drama and this noise and madness about it. There's obviously people out there who love it and they just want to help. And that's why they watch. That's why they listen. But then there's always, as we said, going to be those people. And I saw that a lot in, the comment section, and unfortunately, like the other side that was looking at all of this, the sleuthers,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be careful what you say and put out there, because people who want to be there for the drama are going to see that and they're going to spread it like wildfire without double checking. And for instance, I was talking to Powell about it when I was initially researching everything. In this case, you could look at one piece of information, like along the research path. You build your wall of the different things that happen. And I'd be at the bottom and I'd find one thing and I would look at this and have my mind made up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'd find two facts to back it that were really just someone's opinions that they're stating as fact that they haven't even fact checked. And it really puts this idea in everyone's head. And it's so important when we're covering these cases and talking about these things that you do your own research. Like I always tell everyone, even in my videos, don't believe everything I say. Yeah. Don't quote everything I say. I know I do because I back it, but do your own research always. Make sure you know what you're saying and you can back it before you say it to someone else, because that's how things like this get started. And oh man.
Well, and if you're in the position like we are, or even not people that are maybe as public as us, but if you're putting up a group Facebook page somewhere and you want to be representing a point of view, include your sources and make it transparent where your point of view is coming from, so that other people, when they do come along, you want them. Yeah, you want them. Well, hopefully they'll agree with you, but it's kind of almost better if they don't, because then you know that you're being fact checked and you're being tested a little bit. If you're in a vacuum where everyone's agreeing with you, you're probably not on it. You're probably not getting to the real truth of what's going on there, because
it's a domino effect of one person freaking out and then another person freaking out and then another and another and another, and then you're all in this like frenzy together.
Yeah. And there was definitely an emotional frenzy kind of buy-in situation going on there. So I hope that they'll follow up on that. I hope that they do move it to WebSleuth, at least as a component to their investigation. I'm not saying that, they can't have their group and share their private thoughts or any of that, but
it can be beneficial to the case if they do that, because like you said, they will be forced to focus on the facts that are found, things police have, actually released and things like that. It's very limited, and I feel like you're going to do more with that information and testing that out than looking into all the different theories and going off of different hopes and assumptions you might have. I don't feel like that's nearly as beneficial.
Yep. And then on the flip side, Josh actually sent me an email, and he says that he promises not to talk about them anymore at all.
Good. That makes me happy.
Yeah. I really tried to talk to him about that, about how to typically take the steam away from trolls, how to take their gas away or whatever they're looking for. And it's usually that they're looking for response. They're looking for reaction. And in particular with him, they're always looking for more information from him, because they're trying to set up this chain of lies. And anytime he says something, if it counters something else, then it adds to their ticker that they've got going in their head. So
trying to establish a pattern that just ends up reinforcing their, like you said, belief structure. And every time he would, freak out in response to them or have something negative to say or go on a rant, it was just providing more power to their steam engine of it really
belief.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but it was almost like we were just feeding each other this negativity and questionable information. And as we both said, Noah got lost in the middle of all of that really badly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still feel like we're trying to find the pieces of where that story is.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we have both sides taking some good steps there. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we cut out today?
Well, I would love to know if people would enjoy another collab like this because, well, cases like this, usually I would shy down from. And I think you even mentioned that before because, first of all, there's so much information. Second of all, there are a lot of very highly opinionated people. And it was very nice to me to be able to get Noah's message out there and his story out there and have a support system. Do you know what I'm saying? Like have someone who was able to do part of it and, see two different perspectives and approaches to the case and come together like this in the end and see how everyone feels because I don't know, it was very nice. I feel like I wouldn't have done that otherwise. And I was very, very proud of how we both did everything in the end of it. And I felt great that we were able to accomplish something that I know neither one of us would have attempted to accomplish on our own. So
Yes, you're absolutely right. There's no way, especially me looking back at it now.
Oh, I would never do it by myself. I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. It was hard enough just doing the part that I was handling. And I know you were going through the same thing on your end. So yeah, it is kind of an interesting mechanic. What do you guys think? Are there other lessons that you see that we should have learned in all this? Let us know about that in the comments below. Do you think we should do collabs like this again? For me, I'm in the boat saying yeah, especially for a tough case.
I know it's necessary in a tough case.
Yeah. I don't know how we'll always identify that, but I think that, kind of like this one came up naturally. We kind of knew that it was the right mechanism for this case. So if I bump into any, I'll certainly reach out and let you know, and I ask that you do the same.
Cool.
All right, Danelle, thank you so much for your time today. And thanks to everyone out there that cares about this case so much to spend all this time looking through this. We put out a lot of content just on this case.
I saw the length of your interview and I was like, how? How did he do that? Oh my goodness. I know, man.
Yeah. So, and it means so much that there are many of you out there that care to put yourselves through all that amount of content to try to come to some understanding on this. So thank you guys for being a part of that. Before we go, we're going to end on a video that Josh actually sent in. He just wanted to send kind of a thank you to both of us for helping to raise exposure to this case. And this video actually includes some poetry from Noah. So we're going to go to that. And to everyone else, I'll see you back here on the Lord and Arch channel tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
Now, baby, I'm so proud of you. Hope you had a good day, okay? Sure am blessed more than anything else. I work hard for what I have. And I work hard at what I do and I give my all to it. But seeing things like this, man, most cheerful. She got that award today, she graduated. It reminds me of what I'm doing. You guys have been an amazing opportunity to get my brother's name out there, and you have no idea how much it means to me. I already can tell you how excited, ecstatic, shy, and speechless he would be just because I know him. But thank you. Take aside, sickness aside, trauma aside, this calamity aside, if I could just leave with one point, I know nobody cares what I have to say or think. Never let what can happen stop what needs to happen. Do you think I try? Sometimes I might clumsily go along about my way, but I know what I'm going after. I don't let what can happen stop what needs to happen. And what needs to happen is we need you. We need you guys. We need your listeners. We need your viewers. Thank you for letting us get heard by them. You guys are so great at what you do. And I don't brag much, but I'm pretty good at what I do too. Where I am. Today I found myself. Where yesterday, I was gone. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but today, I know where I am. I do like to think clearly, but clarity, it's often elusive. My visual mindset is confusion, but today, I know where I am. Racing thoughts cloud my mind. It's hard to focus when you can't see. Often blurred vision blocks my line of sight, but today, I know where I am. Where does it all come from? All the thoughts and scattered scenes. Today, none of them mean a thing, because today, I'm with you. From Noah. Thank you, guys.